Good afternoon and good evening wherever you are in the world, and welcome back to the Champions Esports series where we're here for round 9. It should have been a break week this week. Previous events for Canada got cancelled. Decided to make break week into an extra round. 12 rounds of this. We are here this evening at Budapest. We are at the Hungary Ring. Are here in Hungary for round 9 of the season. Monaco without the walls, and it should be a rather interesting thing ahead. We are going to be, of course, looking at Ventauri, who have taken the back-to-back race victories with Ryan Modler and then Simon Enge. Could they repeat the feat today and be the first team to win 3 in a row this season, or will Shazoo or Tomas Enge to finally hit back? Or potentially could we see another team hit the front, which potentially could have been FVR last week? As we all know, a dramatic end to that race where we saw Ryan Bakar lead a majority of those final few laps, especially once he got back past Simon Enge. And then, unfortunately, on the final lap, his tyres overheated too much. He turned into the S section. The rear of the car went round. And in a dramatic fashion, took out his own teammate, trying to spin the car back round and rejoin the road. That, of course, was a big talking point from last week. Arguably the biggest talking point from last week. As we head into here in Budapest, we don't unfortunately have an updated standing, so I can't tell you exactly how many points the teams are on, but I think it is Tomas Enge Sims still leading the way from, and then, of course, Ventauri, who have certainly been on an upshot in form as of late. But while we are here, let's quickly run you through this evening race. Let's quickly run you through the track we're heading through this evening. So we're here at the Hungary Ring, 4.381 kilometers, 2 DRS zones in the opening part of the circuit, and 14 corners here for the drivers to play for. 8 miles. Was detection zone for the first DRS just before turn 14. Actually, a double detection zone. So if you get it down that main straight, you'll have it between turns 1 and 3. Of course, turn 2, that little pink left. Go from a quite flowing first sector to a technical middle. And then a bit more of a slower, more agonizing final sector with turns 13 and 14, where you're just begging to get back onto the throttle. Go again. We are going to be heading into session very shortly though, and I'm going to be IRT driver for now. Not sure if we are going to have potentially someone come in probably a little later on for our IRT, but we have 19 cars. Tomas Enge, they're oh so close in the title fight. They need to capitalize on moments like this where, the teams are so close, and the fact that Ventauri are now there, able to take points off drivers in front of them. Ventauri tonight are lining up with Vidler and also Vidler and Daniel Hope in the Ventauri cars, and then in the likes of the Tomas Enge, we've got Giovanni Kennis and also Dennis Kaminsky, and then I've got Francesco Largo alongside Gabriel Quintino. So very strong lineups there, brought out by these teams this evening. And we are just going to be underway. Matter of moments. Of course, if you're new here, the format is a short qualifying sessions, 18 qualifying, a shootout for pole position, followed by a 35 lap, 50% race. That is the format for has certainly thrown up some surprises. Of course, last week in qualifying, we had the rain in Mexico, which eventually dried out for a frantic finish. Are we going to see something similar where either it's a one-shot qualifying, or are we going to have rain out? We do have the lobby restart as well after qualifying, so that's something out for as well. But these drivers are going to be more than used to that. I'll be looking at the likes of Enge and Ventauri on their qualifying positions. For Tomas Enge, they've had their spells. They've had drivers that are always at the front, and then especially in recent weeks, they've had a driver qualify near the back, and they've had to do a recovery drive, and it's sometimes gone their way, sometimes has not. They've not been able to capitalise on the opportunities that they have been given. So they need to start preparing for that. They need to start to be able to capitalise on that qualifying. There's certainly a team that is better in the race, but if you can't qualify high enough, you certainly cannot use that race pace, especially here on F1 25. We do have a quali ban as well. That's for Marcel Pabst. I think that is for an incident involved ET8 last week. We are now going to be heading into qualifying. So let's head trackside now, where we see it is a sunny test. Have no clouds at the moment. No rain on the horizons. But we do have one thing for certain, that there is sun in the sky. There are some clouds in the distance, but they will not be threatening any rain. Going to be a dry session, I think. So, first out on the road, we have, it's going to be one of the Aston Martins. It's actually going to be Dennis Kaminsky's teammate of, if I can find it there, he is Giovanni Kennis. Going to be the first one round for a lap time. What Kennis has to offer. Of course, Hungary, it's a difficult circuit to race on. It's difficult to overtake. Of course, known as Monaco without the walls. So it's going to be all about this qualifying. It could crucially be one of the most important qualifyings of the season, not just due to the circuit, but also at the time of the season we are at. Of course, near the end of the championship now, we are. And it is a frantic finish to the end. Of course, only 4 more rounds to go, including this one. So it is going to be a very big sprint to the finish. But let's go on board with Giovanni Kennis. He's about to set the first flying lap here in Budapest. And let's see what he can do. So at the first corner, braking around about 75 metres. Get the car turned into that first apex. Maybe a little bit wider than he would want. And a little bit squirrely on the exit of turn 1, head through 2 and now into 3, down to third gear, maybe again a little bit wider of a line than what he needed to take. Compromises his run through 4. Traffic gets out the way quite nicely there. I think that is of Tomas Kokeli. It is through 4 quite nicely. Now up the hill, but through 5 runs a little bit wide. Somehow doesn't invalidate, but for Kenneth, seems to have a lot of natural understeer in that car that it's just not biting. There's no front-end grip at the moment at this early part of the session. So we'll need to try and work on that as he now heads through 11. He needs to make sure he keeps out of in-track limits. Of course, this is still a benchmark lap time. Heading into 12, braking as the curb starts, down to 3rd, prick the power back up, and then into, of course, turn 13. That's a lovely line through there. Probably one of the best corners he's done on this lap. And then through 14 as well before you put the power back down. DRS open. It's a 14.6 from Giovanni Kellis. I'm expecting this Alpine to the line of Francesco Largo to beat it. And he has by quite a considerable margin. Now we've got Dennis Kaminsky to the line. Where's he going to go? Just behind his teammate, actually. 2/7 behind his teammate. Thiers Korsman for RSC. Goes up into 2nd place. We have one of the McLaren's line. Is that Finn Hertz? Yes, it is Finn Hertz, as he now moves himself up into 4th fastest for ET8. So, seems to be a good showing for ET8 there. I think Pascal Hill also had... Oh, Pascal's actually, I think, had an accident at turn 11. Unfortunately, won't be able to go on board and see that. Well, he's had an accident and he is out of qualifying before he even really gets it underway. So that's unfortunate there for Pascal. As that was Fanstelter up into 4th, Mika up into Mikel, sorry, up into 6th, and then we've got Lucas 7th. And both the Tomas Enge Sim boys near the back of this pack, we've got Tomaszko Kenny on a lap time currently, but has invalidated the lap, so we'll be just pushing on to the very end. Not seen times from Hope, Sanger, Simon, Victor Vidler, or Kenny so far, and a real competitive one from Quintino either, as he's now making his way up into the first sector split. He's it's nearly 6.5 temps up, so he's definitely pushing on this lap. Was able to save the battery. Let's see what Gabriel has to offer as he now enters the technical middle sector. Lovely line through the chicane. And makes his way through 10. And now into the middle sector split he'll go in a couple of moments. 15 seconds up now on the lap. We'll need to find about 2 seconds towards any chance of rivaling the likes of Francesco Largo, his teammate, and Zalan Bieda, who's actually got up into second place. But Largo's got a healthy near to 10th buffer over the Silver Arrows Mercedes. Up to the line comes Gabriel Quintino. What's this going to be? Slots into second fast. It's a perfect start so far from Shazoo. A 1-2 at the moment. A front row lockout. But of course, plenty to play for. And both the Ventauri cars have come out onto the road again. Daniel, of course, did come out and I think aborted the lap, potentially invalidated. And now for Victor Vidler, I think he's making his first excursion on to the racetrack. So for Daniel Hope, of course, formerly at AZR in this tournament, now has been rewarded with a move to Ventauri. So let's see what he now has to offer as he heads through the final corner. And he opens up that DRS. So across the start-finish line for Daniel Hope. And no, I think he's going to go for 2 out laps here. Is that going to be the same strategy from his Scuderia Ferrari teammate of Victor Vidler? They do have Ariane Sanger just separating the pair of them. We'll see if this is an aborted run here from Vidler, if we'll go on board with Sanger, but no, it seems that Vidler is going to go for it. So for Ventauri, they've not set a lap time just yet in the session, nearly 8 minutes gone by. These are crucial moments to just relieve some pressure from both of the Scuderia's shoulders. So as he makes his way now through 3 and into 4, and make his way up the hill. We got Johan joining the session, so we do have a second driver for IRT. Now onto the brakes, down to 3rd gear, bring the power back up, and then into turns 8 and then 9 before making your way through turn 10. And 11 into the middle sector split we go, 52.6. Apparently Purple will has actually had to contend with some traffic there. That's with Michelle in 7th place at the moment. Makes his way through the final couple of corners now, does Victor Vidler. What is that time going to be from the Ventauri man? Hope, of course, not set a competitive lap time. Sanger up into 4th. Here comes Vidler. He goes fastest of all. Victor Vidler to the very top. And that could potentially be the start of 3 poles in a row for Ventauri. It was Enge with the double in Baku and Mexico City, and here in Budapest, it might be Victor Vidler who pulls out a lap of all laps to potentially see himself make it 3 poles for Ventauri. Largo was improving but has invalidated the lap. Thier's Korsman is on a lap time at the moment, so we'll stay on board with the RSC drivers. He now makes his way through the middle sector, was up in the first. And we'll see what Korsman can do if he's still improving in the middle part of the lap. A little wobble through 11, but he is up and he's got to find a 10th of a second. This potentially could see him up onto that second row of the grid, into 3rd place, past Gabriel Quintino. Just needs to hold his nerve through the final couple of corners. That's Finn Hertz going up into 3rd place. So that's a brilliant lap time there from Finn, as ETA have been struggling this season in qualifying. He certainly is not. Korsman to the line, lost some time in the final sector, but up to 5th place. Not too bad there from Korsman. Kamensky moved himself up into 6th. His teammate Kennis is still in the pit lane. Who else is on a lap? Hope went up to 9th, so not a spectacular lap time there from Hope, but he's not too far off his teammate. Vanselter is pushing on. He's up by nearly 0.3 of a second. This is going to be a 0.1, so this could be potentially rival Francesco Largo for that front row of the grid for TRT, of course. Here comes Vanselter, and it is second fastest. A 1 minute 14.154, 200ths quicker than the Alpine for Shazoo. And he's up into second place. A front row start currently for TRT. Quintino now out onto the road. I think that's Bieda just starting a lap time. It is. So let's see what Zalan Bieda can do as he now makes his way through the first corner. DRS now open, of course. It's the brakes. Are rotated in quite nicely. Uses all the circuit he possibly can on exit. Uses the narrow line through the next right-hander and up the hill into turn 4. He's up by 1/10 of a second in that middle in that first sector. We've actually just had another driver go off, so we'll go on board quickly with Florian Vanselter. If the car's still there, no, it's not, but that's a second car now that has crashed. It is of Simon, who has gone off the road somehow at turn 11. Bieda's up by 0.2 of a second. This potentially rival his teammate for the front row of the grid. So let's go back to the on-board shot through the final sector. But that, another driver out before they can even get a lap time on the board. Simon and Pascal Gill yet to set lap times. Here comes Alan Bieda to the line. He now goes second fastest. He displaces his teammate. This is a lovely outing so far for Tartan, for TRT. And now for Tomas Kokeni as he comes through the final corner. What's this going to be for the FVR driver? His teammate currently 12th fastest. He goes 5th fastest, only just shy of Tomas Kokeni's lap time. Quintino pushing on, up by 300ths in the middle sector. Is there anything to be found in the final part of the lap? Across the line he shall go. There was plenty of time in the final lap. And he goes up into 4th fastest. 5th fastest, sorry. Largo pushing on again. He's found a 10th in the first sector. Runs wide at turn 5 though. Another lap that he has invalidated, but will have enough fuel to go again if he wishes to do so. That'll be something interesting to look at, as Sanger, I think, has just now started another attempt. Let's see what Ariane Sanger can do for AZR. 14-3 so far is what's on the board, but we'll see what this first sector split holds for the Haas driver. Up by 0.5 of a second. This could promote him all the way up into the top 7 potentially if he can carry on this rate of improvement. We can find another 0.5. Oh, had to take a few stabs at getting the car turned in to turn 6. 8, 9. Oh, he's run a little bit wide, and that's invalidated the lap for Ariane Sanger, unfortunately. So he won't be able to find an improvement this time around. I think Lucas is on a lap time. Yes, he is pushing on, but he's actually behind Francesco Largo. He's up by 10.5. But we need to look at Francesco Largo, who's come into pit lane. Same with Quintino, so it wasn't Francesco Largo's one. Oh, it's Vanselter. So we'll go back on board with Lucas. The real standout at times for RSC so far this season, as Vittler goes even faster. A 13.8 from Victor Vittler has just absolutely put the gauntlet down. Has the Ferrari driver. He says, yes, you guys can get close to me, but you won't be able to get close enough at this rate. And he goes now even further in front. 3/10 clear of Zalan Bieda. And we surely are staring at back-to-back-to-back. A 3-piece of pole position for Ventauri as Lucas goes up into 3rd. A spectacular lap time there from the RSC driver. We still have the likes of Michelle went up into 4th place. While all that was going on, we still have, of course, Lucas's teammate Thier's Korsman on a lap time, up by a 10th in the middle sector. A lot of these drivers going to be in the 14.1s. It's going to be oh so close. A set from Victor Vittler, and Korsman just pips his teammate, and there's a 1,000th off a front row start in this race. Kennis, is he pushing on the lap? No, he's coming into pit lane. Everybody can be coming into pit lane now. We're going to be in that lull of the session, unless your name's Florian Vanselter. Pushing on through the middle. Let's see what he can do for the remainder of this lap, and if he can pivot his teammate to that second place. And he's certainly going to pivot his teammate to the second place, and he could get very close to the back of Victor Fiddler's lap time. So maybe Fiddler isn't as safe and sound as we thought just yet. But no, Alexa come into pit lane. Not happy with the lap. Is Florian Ventauri comes into the pits and will wait to come back out again. It's the only two cars on the road so far are the RSC pair of Lucas and Thier's Korsman. Hopefully get back round enough time. Yeah, they will. They will surely get round enough time. Get themselves back out again. But we have drivers leaving the garage, drivers coming into the garage, and the first driver out looks like it's going to be one of the McLarens, and of course the only McLaren in this field in qualifying this evening, Thier. So let's see what Finn can produce. On this lap. Of course, we are now into the final lap, so whatever happens now, that will be lapped. And for Victor Fiddler, he's currently staring at carry on the Ventauri streak, and of course pole position around Hungary is one of the more important poles of a season. As we mentioned, it's very, very challenging to overtake. And for Finn, he currently lines up in 10th. And if he found a 10th of a second, he would see himself up into 5th. That's how close this field spread is. We quickly have a look at gap to the leader. You can see 2 tenths is the gap between Bieda and Fiddler. And then all the way down to Finn Hertz, or even Giovanni Kennis, just over a 10th. And just under, sorry, a 10th and a half. But let's get going then with Finn. Here we go, the end of qualifying. The final laps are on the way. And it's going to be Finn to kick us off. No more restarts, no more redos. It is all down to this one lap, and you've got to hold your nerve. You've got to keep your composure because you will not have another opportunity in this session. So, that seemed like a very decent first sector. Maybe a little bit of a moment into turn 3, but he is improving. That V-car might have been a little bit of a distraction, but nothing too major there. And he now makes his way up into the chicane of 6 and 7. Out through turn 8 and then into 9. You're really just pushing the throttle. You're trying to wheel the car through these corners to make sure you get the rotation. And then, of course, into 11 for Finn. Are we up in the middle sector? Yes, we are, but only by 200ths of a second. This will not be a positional improvement at the moment. Runs a little bit wide out of 12th. I think we've got Johan just behind him as well. The Finn needs a monstrous final sector if he wants to improve a position a little bit wide through the final corner. That might have cost him dearly across the line. It did cost him dearly. No time found. Johan to the line. Only 16th fastest, a 14.5 is Francesco Largo pushing on Korsman. Can't find any more time. He did not make it to the line. Largo up into second fastest. Ariane Sanger is coming through the final corner now. We still have Daniel Hope as well as he goes up into 7th. So for Ventauri, both cars in the top 10. Here comes Sanger, 12th fastest for him. Crucial now for both the Tomas Enge sim cars to set a spectacular lap time of Kennis and Kamensky. Michelle for the FVR up into 3rd. Quintino not able to find a lap. Kennis has invalidated his attempt. So what about Kamensky? He's the last hope for Tomas Enge sim in this session. Up into 4th goes Fansel to the exact same time as Michelle. Here comes Kamensky and he goes up into 3rd fastest. Shazoo will be groaning with that one, knowing that they potentially could have had a really good strong suit heading into this race. Fiddler improves his strength on the lead even more on pole position. Kokeni up into 2nd place. And I think unless Lucas can do something about it, which he cannot, that is all she wrote here in qualifying. It has been utter domination by Victor Fiddler. He makes it 3 for 3 for Ventauri. Spectacular stuff from the Ferrari Ventauri driver. 13.8 is what he has said in this session. And then Tomas Kokeni will line up second on the grid, just pipping Largo by 9 thousandths. Being for an interesting race. And just like we saw in Silverstone, it's one of each of Ventauri, Shazoo and Tomas Enge quite high. And the rest of their teammates are in the mid-pack. And disaster for Tomas Enge Sim. Not only because they've got a driver in the mid-pack, but they've got the lowest. That's Giovanni Kennis, down in 14th place. Oh, this is going to be a very tasty race indeed. The best team overall in qualifying there was definitely FVR, who were on for a great result last week. Can they finally get it across the line this week? All will be revealed heading into qualifying. But we are going to have a lobby restart, ladies and gentlemen. So I'll quickly run you through your full order. It's Vidler, Kokeni, Largo, Kamensky, and Michelle. Gloria, Van Zelta, Bieda, Korsman, Lucas, Daniel Hope rounds out your top 10. And it's Quintino, Hertz, Sanger, Kenish, Nalowski, Christoph, Wigley, Pabst, Simon, and Pascal Gill. Of course, Simon and Pascal crashed at turn 11 before they could get lap times on the board. For Marcel Pabst, he had a qualifying ban. But Ken Ventauri, they've made it 3 pole positions in a row. Can they make it 3 race victories in a row? Stay tuned. Quickly head to a short break. When we're back, all the answers will be revealed. And Ventauri scrap back even more points and call themselves closer to this championship battle. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to a soggy Budapest. To make things even harder for the drivers, the heavens have decided to open. We are going to have a wet race here this evening. You can see in the garage, all wet compounder tyres will be utilised this evening. And boy, oh boy, is this going to be one hell of a race to make Hungary even harder. So we'll be getting underway ever so shortly. Of course, it's Fiddler on the front row. The Swedes taking Ventauri's third pole position in a row alongside Tomas Kokeni, the Hungarian, looking to try and take FVR's first victory of the season. And for Shazoo, they've got Francesco Largo lining up in third. Like this, it's going to be extremely interesting with the weather. Of course, this start could change a lot of things. You never know. It could be Fiddler or Kokeni that get a very slow start to things. Or potentially we could see a strong start from Fiddler and Kokeni, or Largo could potentially jump the pair of them. We do not know what will happen. Drivers are going to put extensive work into their setups now to make sure they are rain ready. Of course, being on the full wets as well, it just makes the car feel so difficult to drive, and to adapt to those conditions after a frantic qualifying will be incredibly challenging. So as we, of course, are waiting to get ready. Take this race victory. But we're getting underway now. The 5 red lights are on. It's Kokeni and Fiddler on the front row. And we're on the way here in Hungary. The lights were not held for long, and it's a good start, it seems, so far from Victor Fiddler as they make their way down into turn 1. There's Tomas Kokeni now looking to the inside into that first corner. Nearly sliding into the side of the Ferrari. Francesco Largo goes deep, and that's allowed Kamiński through. Spectacular stuff for Tomas Enge. They see one of their rivals off the road, nearly go off the road. Talking about off the road, there was Michel going off the road there against Salam Bieda, and is looking to try and cut underneath both Thier Korsman and also Florian van Zelter, as we now make our way up into turn 4 for the first time in this race. 3 wide, nearly in the background. That was a Haas driver off. That was of Ariane Sanger, I think, going off the road. Same with Christoph as well. Marcel Paps has had a flying start to this one. He's up into 12th. Giovanni Kennis now up into 13th. Quintino dropping backwards. He's down to 16th place. He's actually on the intermediate compounder tyres. So let's see what the drivers are on in this race. Everyone on the inters except Pabst and Nalowski. And Pabst and Nalowski have had 2 of the best starts in this field. Contact between Sanger and Quintino. Korsman, guy trying to go around the outside of Michel, goes all the way off the road. They're still side by side making their way down into turn 12. Look how heavy it's raining. This is certainly full wet conditions. How these drivers are keeping it on the road in the inters, I do not know. But this is going to be an extremely difficult opening few laps. As look at Nalowski slicing his way through the pack. He got past Toby. He's now getting past Zalan Bieda. He just has so much grip in that Haas. I wouldn't be surprised if he cycles to the front within the next few laps. Look how much later he can brake. Marcel Paps now making his way through on Daniel Hope, and actually gets to drive against Zalan Bieda to now move himself up potentially into the top 9. A little bit of contact between the pair, more contact between the pair, and Paps is just having to sit behind for now. Or is he? Look at the drive. He gets out the corner, and he's just able to go straight alongside and through. Here comes Aloshki. He looked for it. He's actually forced Thier Korsman to go a little bit offline. He's looking to the inside through 5. But he's just not close enough for the lunge. Of course, Kokeni still leads the way at the front of the field. He got a good start, went to the inside, and played his cards absolutely perfectly on the opening lap. But with Nalowski and Paps, with the pace they've got at the moment, I wouldn't be surprised as once they get past Kamiński, they're really able to close up to the back of these drivers in front. The heavens really have opened in this race. Of course, these are the only 2 cars on the wet compounded tyres, everybody else on the intermediates. This is the part of the track, though, where those wets just seem to be so much better than the intermediates, is out of these slow speed corners. They're just able to put the foot down so much better. So Kenny does the fastest lap of this race. Now we're going to see a lunge from Nalowski. Yes, we are. He looks to the inside, not close enough. We actually see a move as well from Van Selter onto Francesco Largo. So Shazoo is starting to drop down the pecking order. SCI not doing well at all in these opening few laps. It's Largo dropping places and Quintino as well. Nalowski now up into 7th place. He's finally got that move done onto Thiers Korsman. Maybe a little shake of the wheel out of anger and frustration that he wasn't able to get past Korsman sooner. Is perhaps going to now look for a move potentially. Not there, he is not. Tomas Kenny is now 1 second behind. Victor Fiddler is now 1 second behind Tomas Kenny. As there goes Paps to the inside. That's a risky one. He's made contact with Thiers Korsman. Gets forced off the road. But that, for me, was Marcel Paps being a little overly aggressive. Having a little incident of his own with Korsman. There was nothing the V-Carb could do. A narrow part of the circuit, which could only just about fit 1 car through. Trying to overtake there was very much not going to work. And for Denis Kamensky, nearly 3 seconds behind Victor Vidler. So the top 2 really are in a world of their own at the moment. They've got some excellent pace. No move being made there for Paps, as we actually see Sanger and Quintino get past Giovanni Kennis, who's potentially made a mistake somewhere. As here comes Sanger trying to go around the outside, but Kennis is able to hold on the inside line there and move back up into 15th. Well, he's dropped behind Quintino, and now Loschke is now all over the back of Michel. He's going to look for a move potentially onto Largo himself, but look how late on the brakes. Now Loschke goes into the side of the Red Bull and into the back of the Alpine, but he's able to get the move done on a Michel. And now here we come then with Francesco Largo to the inside at 3. Just nothing doing there until the exit. Maybe Largo drifted wide. And Nalowski was really on the wrong side of the Alpine there to get the drive, get the move done. Not going to be able to get it done into 4. That will be too risky. But he could potentially try a lunge into turn 5. He is looking for a lunge into 5. Largo tries to squeeze him as much as possible. There's a little bit of contact between the pair. Nothing doing there. And for Francesco Largo, he's really struggling as Paps is finally able to get past Thiers Korsman after struggling for a few laps. This rain still really chucking it down onto the circuit. Kamensky's now 3.5 seconds back. He's losing about half a second a lap to Kokeni and Vidler. Three seconds to Pascal Gil. Kennis is squabbling away once again with Ariane Sanger through 12 and into 13. Vidler now sets the fastest lap of this race. And there, actually, Kennis drops behind Sanger. Quintino's able to get past Finn Hertz. So he's starting to pick up the pace ever so slightly, is the Brazilian. And now hitting the brakes into turn 1. Kennis to try to get back past on Ariane Sanger. Of course, going to be a long race ahead. 35 laps here at Budapest this evening. We're on lap 5. Plenty of action has already happened as Nalowski's still trying to clamber all over the back of Francesco Largo. See the spray coming off the tyres. Was on that open and that when everyone was so congested you couldn't really see anything on the off-board shots. It looks like those inters are slowly coming into play. compared to those extreme wets. But for Nalowski and Paps, they will not care. Let's have a look at the drivers who have made the biggest gains. As Paps up 10, Nalowski up 9. Your biggest losers are Zalambieda down 4 and Christoph down 4 as well. Lucas is down 3. Of course, down 2 for Michelle and Francesco Largo, and up 2 Florian Van Seltzer. Now to turn 1, nothing really doing there for Nalowski, but we've got Quintino versus Lucas, and Quintino could just not get the throttle down there out of the first corner. He's looking for around the outside of 3. He's going to try to do the up and under. Of course, these guys have just got Zalambieda in front of them. And he looks to the inside line. Just not able to go for it. Be able to pull off that move, but he's looked to the outside this time around through 6. He's actually, no, the inside. He actually forced Lucas off the road, and Quintino is up, but that's going to come under a little bit of controversy and maybe to the steward's room, as Finn Hertz is now potentially going to be able to get past Lucas, all because he got forced off there by Quintino. And now Lucas actually under pressure from Ariane Sanger, who looks to the inside at 12. He's made him quite a few moves here on Guinness. That didn't work and did work eventually. And he's been able to get past Lucas. He's forced his way back down the inside. He wasn't having any of that being forced off the road. And he's now charged himself and barreled down the inside. Had a little bit of contact back ahead of the AZR driver, who's still got Guinness all over the back of him. And at the front of the field, there is looking like a change, and there is a change. No, there's not. Van Seltzer did get past Kamensky, but he has, unfortunately, lost the position. A bit like how we saw there for Quintino against Lucas. Just no drive out of the corner, struggling to get the power down. And now we've got Sanger versus Giovanni Kennis. Ariane Sanger makes his way through. Up into that 15th place, of course. Victor Vidler has really started to get close to the back of Tomas Kokeni. He's been flying for a majority of these last few laps. And it's looking to try and take that position away from the Red Bull. Look at the dry line. We're getting on that circuit now. The rain's slowing as well. Not going to help Pabst or Nalowski. But they're going to try and hold on to this as much as they possibly can until they have to come in for those intermediates. Give ETA and AZR a brilliant chance at scoring points. Look at the gap this top 2 have broken away from the rest. 5.5 seconds ahead of Kamensky. And here comes now Victor Vidler. Is he looking to the inside or the outside of Kokeni? Either way, it's going to work as Pabst has come into pit lane, and Michelle has been able to get past Filip Nalowski. I think those extreme wets are certainly going to be overheating at this moment in time. As Pabst, where does he come out compared to this field? I think it'll be dead last. Yes, it will be dead last where he comes out. Wouldn't be surprised if Nalowski keep just trying to hold on to these tyres, go as long as he possibly can, try and perform a one-stop here. Hope able to get past now on Thier's Korsman as he now moves up into 8th. I said that. Korsman charged back down the inside and made a little bit of contact with Daniel Hope. Some good car control there from the Ventauri driver. Thier's Korsman was still there, and for Hope, he somehow was able to hang on to that car and not see himself go around. Look at this. This is definitely now intermediate conditions. Of course, we've seen Marcel Paps come into the pit lane for a fresh set. Let's see how much faster they are compared to the rest of the field. Florian Van Seltzer are still over the back of Kamensky. He's still trying to get by. Simon picks up a 3-second time penalty. Fastest lap time there from Kokeni. Bieda able to get past Quintino. As actually Quintino swings it round the outside. Who's going to win this position here? Is it going to be Quintino or Bieda? But at the front of the field, Bieda's teammate is trying to go for an overtake himself. This time on Dennis Kamensky, went to the outside line, learned from his mistakes last time, and is surely going to be able to force Dennis Kamensky wide, who's actually broke later and has been able to get the car stopped. Brilliant defense there from Kamensky. Vidler all over the back of Kokeni as they head up into 4. Who's going to come out on top there? As of course Nalowski's coming to pit lane. No move there as Van Selter to the inside of Kamensky and was sliding all across the road. And Bieda versus Quintino now rages on in the background with Bieda still able to hold on to the position. Oh, we're going to see another lunge to the inside for Quintino into 67. No, we are not. The rain really starting to let up now. Are we potentially got a drier end to this race? There's a big slide there from Quintino through turn 8. To help his chances are all. Van Shelter not been able to get by either. Kokeni and Victor Vidler, of course, still in their battle. Here comes Vidler now. Going to be tucked right into that slipstream. Fastest lap of the race goes to the Swede. Still no move being made possible just yet. A bit of a slide there for Kokeni, but it's just not enough as Quintino versus Bieda is still going tooth and nail. They're still scrapping for this 9th place. Are we going to see a lunge from Quintino? We are going to see a lunge from Quintino! He goes deeper to the corner, but so does Zalan Bieda. But for Quintino, it was a bit of a bold move there. He tried the risky attempt as Finn Hertz is trying to go for the move as well as he looks to the inside. No move being made there. Well, that did put the Alpine under quite substantial pressure from the McLaren behind. That's Lucas off. He went off the road at turn 4. At turn 3. And unfortunately for Lucas, he's into that wall. Simon picks up another 3-second time penalty. He had contact rejoining the road with Ariane Sanger. There's nothing the Haas driver could have done. And the Red Bull and the V-Carb, sent spinning round into the wall. Did well to hold it for as long as he did. But that is his race run, you would think, unless something drastic happens in the dying embers of this race. On to lap 11 of 35. Kokeni Eldis at the fastest lap this time around. It's really trading in pace of Vidler and Kokeni. Bieda, as he finally lost that position to Gabriel Quintino. Yes, he has. Lucas picks up a 3-second time penalty for exceeding track limits with that broken front wing. And for Quintino, he's now up into 9th place. And he's got to try to find nearly 5.5 seconds to Daniel Hope in front. All this is actually really helping Giovanni Kennis try and recover his way up through the field. At the moment, Shazoo are outscoring Tomas Enge Simlo. Big slide there for Giovanni Kennis. Kenny sets another fastest lap. He's starting to break away from Victor Vidler. Has the Swede's best chance. Gone as Pascal Hill. He's able to make his way past Simon. Back of this pack. Apps is now 3.6 seconds behind on Christoph. So he is slowly catching up to this train of cars in front. be interesting to know what % these drivers' tyres are on, especially with starting in those wetter conditions. They're somewhat able to save them, really, at first, because they were not going full push. It was just keeping the car on the road. Only now have they really started in the past 5 or 6 laps, being able to put that foot down as this dry line has formed. Now do see Victor Fiddler closing back onto the back of Kokeni. This battle really is ebbing and flowing. One driver gets more pace than the other one. Decides he's going to get the better. And he's going to start to set the fastest laps and close back up or break away. And then the other's like, no thank you. And then retaliates. Is able to respond with its own flying pace. Let's see as we cross the line. Is there going to be another fastest lap of this race going the way of Victor Fiddler? Yes, there is. He's faster than Kokeni on that previous tour. Him just going offline to cool down the tyres. So, a way for Kokeni to stop any move to the inside. Like we've just seen from Ventauri. He's into the side of Kamensky. These guys are nearly 10 seconds behind the top two. Quintino sits the fastest lap in this race, down in 9th. And for Ventauri, once again, a move just not going his way, and that could have ended in tears for the pair of them. But Kamensky was able to keep the car facing in the right direction. And great sportsmanship there from Ventauri. Didn't take advantage of the situation. And let the Aston Martin back in front. For a move into 6th, a little bit of contact. He's going for it now, though, into 8 and 9. Once again, just not finding his way through. Now as we head through that final corner, the gap between these guys in the top two now 9.2 seconds. There's not really any big scraps forming further back. Actually, I say that. Thier's Korsman versus Daniel Hope. One to look out for as well, especially with Quintino slowly starting to gain. He's now into the 1:30. He's the fastest man on the circuit, and there's Hope to the inside of Korsman. Some contact between the pair. Luckily, neither sent spinning, and it's going to be all about this drag race now into turn 3. Korsman versus Hope. Around the outside will go the Ferrari. Much braver on the brakes, but there's contact between the pair, and Korsman helps Hope's face the right direction still. But that was some big, big moments in this race. A big amount of contact as well, and that's helped Gabriel Quintino find nearly a second onto the pair as Korsman gets it all locked up, goes into the side of Daniel Hope. And Gabriel Quintino is like, thank you very much, I'll find more time on you two. Starts to close up for that 7th place. As Filip Naloshki and Marcel Paps are starting to make their way up now through the order. They're up to 16th and 18th respectively. Of course, these drivers will have to pit once. Race. It hurts just getting closer to the back from Salam Bieda. Really struggled in the race for CRT. Quintino over 30.2. He's really finding heaps of time in this race. He's now 1.6 seconds behind Thier's Korsman. And Finn not close enough for a lunge to the inside. Not to Bieda, who's actually got Sanger right behind him as well, who's then got Kennis all over the back of him. And Yokwan is actually really close to the back of Giovanni Kennis as well. He's just hanging on by the coattails, but he's still close to the back of the Aston Martin. things go his way, he could potentially shape up a move as well. Ventauri now half a second back. Victor Vidler 6/10 back from Kokeni. Korsman nearly a second away from Daniel Hope. And Quintino is now within 1 second of Thier's Korsman. He really has put those afterburners on, and he has been absolutely flying, has Gabriel Quintino, over the course of these last few laps. No new fastest lap this time around from Quintino, but he won't care. He's now got his sights set onto Thier's Korsman. These guys have actually been closing up to the back of Michelle. Daniel Hope is really finding some time on the FVR car, so it could be these drivers potentially save their tyres a little bit more at the start. Now looking to put it on as this race goes on. Slowly built themselves into the race. Purple first sector from Quintino. Shows he's plenty of pace still in the bag, and of course the track going to get quicker and quicker as well as these drivers form more of a dry line. The circuit starts to get drier. These cars move more water to the edges of the track. Now for Quintino, really is looking at a lunge potentially at some point in the next couple of corners. Surprised if we see one down into turn one if he get a good launch out of the final corner. So here we are then with Quintino. Is it going to be now, or is he just going to have to wait that little while longer? I think with that launch that Korsman got, well, actually, no, look at that. He's used the battery. Quintino to the inside line. Hurts into pit lane. But Quintino used the battery. I don't know if Korsman thought he was safe or there was no point fighting him and holding off the inevitable. I think it was just Korsman not fighting, because that little weave there is a thank you from Quintino. I think Korsman knew it was going to be inevitable that he got through. It was just a matter of when, not if. But he let him through without too much of a fight. But next on the list is Daniel Hope. Hard charging racer, very fierce in defense and attack, and also part of the championship rivals of Shazoo, Ventauri Esports. Are we going to see anyone else into pit lane? Victor Vidler is now nearly 1.3 seconds off Tomas Kokeni, so he's really dropped off in these past few laps, maybe struggling with a bit of tyre wear. Quintino once again a new fast lap, now into the 29.6s. He is absolutely flying. It's Gabriel. Kennis. 13th has come into pit lane. He now moves on to a fresh set of tyres, same as, of course, Finn Hertz, who was only a lap ago. Kamensky's really closing up to the top two as well. Not 8 seconds behind, it was 9 about 5 laps ago, so he's slowly been chipping away at that gap. And now for Quintino. He is really closing up to the back of Daniel Hope, who's gone a little bit wide through the chicane. And as we're getting closer and closer to it, as we've actually passed that halfway stage, sorry. Now halfway into this race and into the latter half, drivers are going to be thinking more and more about pit stops. And we actually see Kamensky come into pit lane from 3rd place. He's into the pits. But the main battle we need to look for is Quintino versus Daniel Hope. A brilliant comeback drive this could be from Quintino after a disappointing qualifying down in 11th. Dropped down at the start of this race and has now really started to move himself further forward. Of course, the battle now for 6th. But after they come into pit lane, it will be, of course, for that 7th place. Kamensky going for that undercut. He's actually been able to come out just in front of Zalan Bieda. He's now got 7 seconds to push on into. That's really worked out nicely. As Daniel Hope picks up a 3-second time penalty. Drama there for Ventauri. One of their drivers picking up 3 seconds. That is not good at all. As here comes Quintino nearly into the back of Daniel Hope. But Hope needs more drivers to pick up penalties. By the end of this race, could lose out on some very, very crucial points indeed. Now through 8. Now in the final sector. Kokeni and Vidler carry on. Vidler has actually closed back up to Tomas Kokeni. That gap now half a second again, so he's just backing off, saving those tyres and battery maybe, and going for it again. I'm surprised Quintino's not coming into pit lane to potentially try and undercut. I guess when you have all this pace, there's no real need to. So for Gabriel Quintino, close this time around. Finn Hertz is actually quite close to Simon. Looking to the inside. Better tyres, better grip. It's through as easy as you like. Back of the front of field, we look at Vidler and Kokeni once again. Vidler still trying to close that gap down. Van Seltzer now sets the fast lap of this race, so he's now been unleashed into clean air and showing he's the fastest man on the road. Quintino not close enough for a move. Marcel Paps is fighting away with Pascal Hill for that 13th place. He's got it done quite nicely. As Kamensky now sets the fast lap, of course, on those fresh tyres. So he's certainly going to keep his position over Van Seltzer. Actually, Paps is having to defend here from the kick Sauber of Kill, but he's actually forced the Sauber out wide, and that's allowed Filip Nalowski to now come through and up into that 14th place. Or is he? Because he's going to have to try and hold this one now around the outside, and he has done that beautifully. Hill just potentially a little bit tentative on the brakes, and Nalowski says, thank you very much, I've got the confidence, I'll make my way through. For Nalowski, he's trying to hunt down Marcel Paps, of course. racing with on those wet tyres not too long ago. Again, he's still ahead of Fiddler. These drivers have stayed out for quite some time. Sanger now into pit lane. Kamensky's another fastest lap, this time into the 28 to 28.6 from the Aston Martin. Nearly at breaking point between Kokeni and Fiddler. I've actually been able to go so long on these intermediates, to be fair, because we know Hungary is quite a high deg circuit. Still, 4 of them come into pit lane. Looking to tuck into the slipstream now. Here's Victor Fiddler, but once again into turn 1. Nothing is done. You see Daniel Hope into the pit lane now. That's crucial with his battle and Quintino. So he's coming into pit lane. Potentially could be a bit of a test dummy here for, of course, teammate Victor Fiddler to see how much better those fresh inters do feel. Out just in the middle of Pap Stanovsky. I say in the middle, he's actually come out alongside Pap Stanovsky. Of course, earlier on this season, these two were teammates at Silverstone. Now fighting for different teams. One's on fresh tyres, one's on 14 lap old tyres, and Hope is able to keep the position. And I wouldn't be surprised if these drivers are actually trying to hold on for the dries, because it's really slowed down in the rain, and the track is looking a lot drier than it did not too long ago. So are we seeing drivers hold off to the hold off to potentially the rain stops? I'm not sure if it does. Well, I think that will certainly be the play. The rain does come to an end. There's actually now Lovsky's all over the back of Thier's Korsman. Not Lovsky, sorry, Kamensky all over the back of Thier's Korsman. And look at the drive. He gets out of that final corner. Was able to go up and then under. And he's through on Thier's Korsman. But look at the circuit. It's nearly bone dry. I wouldn't be surprised if in the next few laps we do see some drivers brave the slicks. Short little medium stint to the end maybe as Paps gets overtaken now by Daniel Hope. Kenneth now sets the fastest lap of this Grand Prix. Quintino's actually been able to catch up to Michel as well, as he's now trying to hunt down for that 5th place. Rain is still coming down rather heavily though. Think about the slicks. Actually, we see Victor Fiddler into pit lane. Fiddler is in. Where does he come out crucially compared to Dennis Kamensky, who's been on those fresh tyres for nearly going to be 6 laps by the time he crosses the line? Will Fiddler come out in front of the Aston Martin? Of course, we see that slow release from the game, but he has not had a slow stop. And he does come out well clear of the Aston Martin. But certainly that gap has come down. Kamensky round about 8 seconds behind when he came into pit lane. It's now 3.4. Fiddler's going to try push on to potentially try get an undercut here. The car's in front of him. Because of course Tomas Kokeni, his Hope now moves up into 10th past Wigley. We've seen now Sanger setting the fastest lap of this Grand Prix. It's circuit definitely getting faster and faster. It's there to the inside. Is Daniel Hope on Zalan Bieda. He's going to have the drive, surely off the corner. 22 laps of difference in tyres. Hope, thank you very much. I'll see myself through. Fiddler now has a lot of pace in this Grand Prix. That purple middle sector already. Ventauri is now nearly 10 seconds behind Tomas Kokeni. Let's look at that, Quintino. We're going to have a perfect view here from Victor Fiddler. Quintino to the inside of Michelle. Is there going to be a move done there from Mikel? Yes, it is. Quintino up into 4th place, but he could potentially lose that within a matter of moments as here comes to the inside the Ferrari of Victor Fiddler onto the FER driver. And next on his list will be Gabriel Quintino. And is he going to get by with sheer ease? We think so. Is that someone off in the background? That's Simon, who has gone off the road. See if we can get back over to him, see what happened. Has he lost part of his front wing? No, he has not, but I think he's got a rear... No, he's not got a rear puncture, so Simon just going off the road by himself. There, but we saw that happen in the dry as well. Just these drivers struggling with turn 11. Here comes Fiddler all over the back of Quintino. Surely going to look for a lunge into 12. That is going to be a perfect opportunity to see himself by. Quintino will defend this as aggressively as he can, but he knows he can't lose too much time. As Simon comes into pit lane and retires, Victor Fiddler moves himself now up into 4th. We're now going to see Victor Fiddler go for the move onto Francesco Largo. Commence to give another fastest lap of this race. Hope beats it as well. And now Victor Fiddler is in clean air. He's got a hunt down 6 seconds. How quickly can he do that over Florian Van Zelter, who's on 26 lap hold intermediates compared to Victor Fiddler's 2? And look at that, he's nearly taken out half a second already the span of 2 corners. Nine laps to hunt down the top 2. That gap now 14 seconds. Going to bring up the timing tower to see how much faster Victor Fiddler is a lap than Tomas Kokeni and Florian Van Zelter. And of course, he potentially has another half a second in it after he went for that move onto Francesco Largo into that first corner. So Kokeni to the line. A 1 minute 28.8 from Tomas Kokeni. Victor Fiddler, by the time he crossed the line, as Kamensky gets by, we'll go look back at that in a moment's time. Victor Fiddler across the line, a 25.3. Nearly 3.5 seconds faster. As actually we see Quintino and Michelle into pit lane. They've gone for it now, but you think that's a little bit late due to how everybody else is going. Maybe a miscalculation by Shazoo on when to pull the pin on their drivers, because they're going to surely come up behind Zalan Bieda and potentially the likes of Wiggly and Paps as well. Yes, they are. There goes Paps and Wiggly as they're side by side for 9th place, IRT and ET8. And Quintino actually is able to get past a pair of them. He was still just had enough speed to look down the inside, and he's now through. Up into 9th place. Surely they're going to think of bringing in Francesco Largo as well. Let's look at that. Victor Fiddler is even faster on this lap. And Tomas Kokeni's into pit lane. But I think he's left that well too late at this stage of the race. Vanselter's in as well. Largo's got to be in too. And if you're Shazoo, you're going to be kicking yourself because if you brought Quintino in, Kokeni onto the mediums. Yellow flag for Pascal Hill. I think it's for... It is, as he's actually got a rear right puncture. But mediums for Vanselter and Kokeni. Is Largo going to do the same? Yes, he is. Are the dry tyres the one to be on? I think we need to have a look at Tomas Kokeni's screen. It's just a little bit slidey at the moment. He needs those tyres to warm up. But Victor Vidler is certainly staring at making it 3 in a row just like he did in pole positions. Maybe make it 3 in a row and race victories as well. Vanselt has actually been able to get past Thier's Korsman, who's on 28 lap-old intermediates. What a stint here from Thier's Korsman. Kokeni is faster on those slick compounder tyres. I said, were they waiting for that dry moment, that time where the dry tyres can kick in? They certainly have, and for Quintino and Michel, they came in 1 lap too soon. As Kamensky comes into pit lane. Kamensky into the pit lane. Victor Vidler sets the fastest lap. So now the hunter becomes the hunted. 6 laps. 7.6 seconds separate the top 2. And oh wow, look how fast Tomas Kokeni is already. Quintino fast lap on the intermediates. He's let Francesco Largo go. And you're surely going to think he's going to stay out on those intermediates and hold on for every point possible because Shazoo are in a really good position here. Score some big points. As the rain has stopped, the track has dried up. Victor Vidler, excuse me, might have just lost this race lead at the very end. Well, a chance at this race lead, sorry, should I say. And Tomas Kokeni, the FER driver who's dominated this race so far, has led every lap but the recent few, and Vidler's in. Vidler is into pit lane, and we're going to see Vidler relinquish that race lead and picks up a 10-second time penalty. 10-second time penalty to Victor Vidler. And for Ventauri, this could be the end of the road for their championship battle. Especially with Shazoo scoring at the moment at least a 4th and a 6th in this race. Largo sets the fastest lap. And Kamensky's able to get past Gabriel Quintino. Victor Vidler, in the dire moments of this race, the final moments of this race, has made a crucial error, picked up a 10-second time penalty. Which now means for him he will not only drop behind Francesco Largo, but also Kamensky, Quintino as well, if he's able to hold on. I don't think he'll be able to. But he'll drop behind Kamensky and Francesco Largo. And Ventauri might just well and truly be outscored. Is Quintino coming in? I think he's definitely just going to stay out and try firm these tyres for as long as possible. And look at this at the front of the field. 11 seconds between Ventauri and Kokeni. It's been utter domination here from the Red Bull. The FVR's first race victory of the season. After what happened last time out in Mexico City, they'll be straight onto the microphone to Tomas Kokeni. Say, bring this home in one piece. And make sure you don't spin out this time from the front of the lead. From the front of the field. And just bring her home. No more risks. With 3 laps to go now in this Grand Prix. Ariane Sang has now been passed by Thier's Korsman. He's on the intermediates. Yeah, how little grip there is. They fight their car through the corner. And look at Quintino. He's now 7.5 seconds behind Dennis Kamensky. It was better to stay out than it was to come in. They would have lost too much time if it was to come in. But even if it is a 7th place finish, it's still outscoring Tomas Enge. Going to outscore Ventauri as well, you would think, potentially here. Actually, Daniel Hope's now all over the back of Gabriel Quintino. This is over, of course, 6th place at the moment, and Hope will surely be able to get by because Quintino will have no grip in that Alpine. Been a very good defence for the sector so far from Quintino. He's doing everything he possibly can. But I think Daniel Hope's superior traction will allow him to get through down that main straight. Victor Vittler sets another fastest lap. Lucas picks up another 3-second time penalty. And there we go. Here comes Daniel Hope. On to Gabriel Quintino. Easy as you like. Gets by. He'll be a 7th place here for Quintino as Korsman's able to get past here. On to Michel. Alan Bieda as well. He's starting to make his way up through the field. Just past Giovanni Kennis, who's actually past Ariane Sanger, who's dropping like a stone in this race after he's now stayed on the intermediates. There is actually Bieda going a bit deep into the corner. If he's on the softs compared to Kennis and Bieda, now looking to hold on to his position around the outside. He's gone into the side of Kennis, has somehow been able to keep the position, and somehow neither of them got damage either. That was some really tense moments in this race as Zalan Bieda hit the side of Giovanni Kennis, who of course has a 3-second time penalty to his name. And Bieda, as we've started the final lap now with Tomas Kokeni, going to try and hold on. Victor Vidler's going to try and get past Florian Van Selter. Be great if he can get that 10-second time penalty removed. But at the moment, all we can think is that he has got 10 seconds and he has sped into the pit lane. So this move will be for 2nd place on the road, but it'll be for nothing overall. Korsman might still be able to get Gabriel Quintino here. That could be this is going to be a battle to look out for over the course of the final lap. As we also see Paps get past Michel in the background. But this, between Quintino and Korsman, is for 7th place and could be some crucial points in the championship battle. Every point matters. That's why they kept Quintino out. But is he going to be able to hold on against Thier's Korsman? We saw a valiant defence in the middle sector when he was with Daniel Hope from Gabriel Quintino, but has his tyres just aged too much against the V-Carbs? He'll defend that inside line. Looking to the outside is Korsman, but brilliant defending once again from Quintino, but coming across the line now to win here in Budapest. It's Tomas Kokeni. He's weathered the storm and has absolutely dominated this Grand Prix. He picks up the race victory for FVR, their first race victory of the season. Spectacular stuff from the Hungarian at his home race as well. He picks up the race victory And that will go down a sheer treat for FVR. They right their wrongs. They redeem themselves from last week as Thier's Coursman through the penultimate corner was just able to get past Gabriel Quintino and move up into a 7th place. But for Tomas Kokeni, the Hungarian, the home hero for FVR here this evening, he took the lead from on lap 1, did not look back. He may have dropped behind Victor Fiddler when Fiddler was still in the inters and he went to the slicks. But he knew the strategy was going to come to him, and it certainly did. And he utterly dominated here in Hungary. Spectacular stuff from Tomas Kokeni as FVR pick up their first race victory of the season. So your finishing order is as follows. It's Kokeni from Fanselter, Largo, Kamensky, Vidler, Lynn Hope, Korswin, Quintino, Paps, Nalowski, and then Michel as well, who lost that 10th place on the final lap. For Tomas Kokeni, of course, that's a brilliant result for FVR. Unfortunately for their sister car, it's only 11th. Then Bieda, then Wigley, then Hertz, then Ennis, who unfortunately has had a really poor race for Thomas Enge. I think that might just give Shazoo the championship lead. Then Sanger, Lucas, Hill, and our only retirement is Simon. But for Tomas Kokeni, sheer delight here on his home race. The race that he probably wanted to win the most since it was announced not too long ago. And if he was racing, they do say you get 2 to 3 extra attempts a lap as a home advantage when you are a driver. And that certainly is what's happened to Tomas Kokeni. A spectacular race from the Hungarian who wins here for FVR. And that was a crazy race as well. Just was completely changeable conditions. We started off in full wet weather, ended up going back to slick weather, ended up going back to the dries. And it certainly was a race that had everything. Overtakes, a few incidents here and there, a retirement as well from Simon, who ended up hitting the wall at turn 11. And it really was just a spectacular race overall. And we are going to be looking at the Stewards' Room, you'd think, to see if we're going to see anything come the way of either Victor Fiddler potentially having his penalty removed, or if somebody else gets a penalty. Of course, we could still see Quintino get a penalty after his incident with Lucas. So that is something to look out for. Keep an eye on the Discord and the social media. And also next week, see if anything big happens. Also, what the standings will look like. Standings heading into this one, I have just seen we did get some just after we went into the qualifying session and the race. It was, coming into it, was Thomas Enge Sim on 388, SCI on 367, Ventauri on 309, TRT on 220, FVR on 190, RSC on 183, ETA on 150, ONIP on 93, IRT on 65, and AZR on 58, who had a 20-point deduction. AZR for not having any drivers last week. But that, for Shazoo, has certainly brought that gap down. I don't think they've taken the championship lead now, but they certainly have sliced it down to minimal points, and that's what we've seen all season long. One team takes the lead, they have a good race to follow it up potentially, and then it gets sliced in half. It is going to be absolutely chaotic to the end. I think Ventauri, they're certainly still outside favourites. They still have an opportunity, but I think their race, their championship hopes are now down the gutter after this evening's action. But let's run you through your calendar for the remainder of the season. We've got 3 rounds to go, and it's 3 straight weeks of action. Next week, we head over to Viva Las Vegas, Sin City for round 10. Then it's round 11 at Brazil, followed by Saudi Arabia, the championship finale here at round 12. I hope we do have a battle all the way to the very end. I shall see you next time in Saudi Arabia. It'll be Alex Bagnall on the comms for the next 2 weeks. So he will be there for Vegas and Brazil. And I'll be back in the commentary box for that season finale. So until then, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very much for watching. It has been a spectacular Hungarian Grand Prix. You expect Hungarian Grand Prix to be boring. This one was absolutely outstanding. It was so chaotic, so action-packed, and it certainly did deliver. These boys know how to put on a good race, and that they certainly. But, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very much for watching. I have been Max Ring, and we shall see you in the next one here at Champions Esports. Of course, thank you to ABS, everyone behind the scenes as well at CES for being able to put this on, and Driveline Media as well, who bring this stream to you. But as I say, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it. Enjoy the next 2 weeks with Alex. Make sure you tune into those at 8 p.m. UK, 7 p.m. UK time, not 8 p.m. Central European time. See who will come out on top. I shall see you in Saudi Arabia. So until then, it's goodbye from me. But remember, stay safe, stay well, and we shall see you in the next one. Thank you all very much for watching, and bye.